This ESPN podcast is brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com.
Giancarlo Stanton and the Miami Marlins travel to New York to face the Mets.
Left right field towards the corner. Gone!
The pregame's at 3:30 Eastern, followed by first pitch at 4:30. Saturday on ESPN Radio. SVP and Russillo, the podcast.
Hey, it's SVP and Russillo. Appreciate you checking out the podcast. Ryen called the Rockets' home loss to the Clippers the worst loss in the playoffs thus far, and I agree. We asked Chauncey Billups, a former Finals MVP, if he was ever on a team that got caught looking down the road like that in a playoff game. Ryen invents a game. When's the last time this happened? It was fun, and Steve and I actually did very well. The Bulls, with an oddly passive LeBron, lose to the Cavaliers. What do we make of this series now? Dueling movie reviews of Avengers 2, and Tim Kurkjian absolutely slaughtered by my Kentucky Derby question. Also, there's baseball stuff about the Astros, who are good. Podcast starts now.
Now, SVP and Russillo on ESPN Radio.
And ESPNradio.com.
People were offended and are angry at a team that most of them I don't even think root for today. People watching the Rockets last night it was an affront to them, the level of effort and interest, and it cost them as the Rockets lose at home to a Clippers team that came stumbling in off a grueling 7-game series that didn't have Chris Paul. I found it humorous almost, just how angry people that had no skin in the game were at the Rockets' performance.
Good for them, because it was awful. It's the worst loss of any team in the playoffs so far. I don't want to hear about Milwaukee getting smashed by the Bulls. They weren't winning that series. I don't want to hear about New Orleans blowing a 20-point lead to Golden State. They weren't winning that series. Houston may have lost this series last night. Now, we can all do the collective, responsible. It's one game. Maybe it's really bad. We'll see what happens in game 2. But if you're home with rest and no Chris Paul and the Clippers, where in the beginning offensively, Scott, it looked like, oh, man, we were going Austin Rivers, ISO Duke offense here. This isn't going to be fun. But then as the game develops, and it's almost like that thing where you see with Houston or just good teams, they go, oh, we're better than them. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. And next thing you know, you go, you're down. It's late. The Clippers think they can win this game. And to see Harden go back to who he's been on defense in game 1, like, what are you guys waiting for? It's the second round. You're bored?
It was a very casual approach they took, and as many people pointed out, because you look across and Chris Paul is wearing some sort of a blazer with, what is that, velvet on the lapels, and you think, all right, well, he's not as dangerous if he's not wearing a uniform, and they're exhausted, and we've had time. It's the old rest versus rust. It wasn't rust. It was a complete lack of an appreciation for the stage. It's like a Tuesday night in February game where you're like, man. I mean, they look bored. They look disinterested. They were sloppy, and they allowed a double-digit second-quarter lead to evaporate, and they let a proud, confident Clipper team hang around. And then they punished them. They punished them for allowing them to hang around. Kevin McHale with the understatement of the week, and it's only Tuesday, but this will probably stand up.
We didn't play with much composure all night long. We had 4 turnovers. We had 15 turnovers, I think, in the first half. We were just sloppy. They played with a much more of an edge. They played harder than we did. Again, we did not play very well.
You don't say, Doctor. And I just found it interesting because I think Rocket fans, they're not a bandwagon fan base, but people that were watching were just put off by the lack of an appreciation for, as you say, figure it out. I mean, you're not the Bucks. The Bucks were horrible last year. Yeah, they lost by, I think, 70 at home in the Game 6. That was ugly. But to your point, they weren't winning the series. New Orleans got in because Oklahoma City had a bunch of injuries. They're not winning the series. Houston's the 2 seed at home against an exhausted team, and they're playing like it was the last game. Remember, everybody that's ever played pickup, that last game before dinner, where dudes start just wandering to their car. You're like, no, come on, it's 10-9. Nah, man. That's the way the Rockets played last night.
Now, the Clippers had 21 turnovers to Houston's 23, but Houston actually, when they turned it over, the Clippers were better just making the most of those turnovers and getting 29 points off of that. But when I look at the Rockets and the reaction to it, I mean, it's twofold. One, it's completely justified. And I went through all the Harden defensive stuff again. And remember the YouTube?
Oh, yeah.
I broke it down and watched on my program all of his defensive possessions. And I went through the Matt Barnes stuff. Tip of the game. We're not 30 seconds into this thing. Harden just stops rotating on him, leaves Barnes open for a three-point shot attempt. Harden in transition, last guy back, he might as well take a knee. Okay, he's never, ever going to challenge you at the rim. And I don't know that I blame guys all the time for that, but he's never doing it. He had a cut where Barnes cut right in front of him. There was another bad rotation from Harden where he stayed to jump the passing lane to DeAndre Jordan, who was 15 feet away from the hoop, while Barnes ran baseline and couldn't be more open. And then at the end of the game, about a minute 45 to go, it's still a 10-point game, lock in, bear down, and he just lets Barnes can't believe he's as open as he is, and he just walks past Harden, and Harden just never does anything. So if you're watching film, there's nothing that the Clippers did last night where you go, we have no answer for this. It's, do you guys want to be here? Are you interested in trying to get through the second round, or are we just good because we improved on last year? Dwight was great last night. Hey, Dwight Howard looked like Dwight Howard from Orlando again, and you're seeing that from him defensively. But if Harden's going to get 10 points in the half court last night, the other 10 were in transition, and go back to bad D YouTube Harden in the playoffs against Matt Barnes, like, what if you have to defend somebody good on offense? If I coach this team, I would be incensed and look at Harden and go, who do you want to be, man? Because this MVP stuff and the score, like, we get it. We know who you can be. But how could you be that not interested in playing defense on Matt Barnes, of all people?
You got Paul on the bench. You've got a team that's exhausted. You have to punish him. And
you have to win that game last night.
If you have any aspirations of mattering in the grand scheme. Now, I would assume that you'd see a proud response. I would assume that. And if I'm the Clippers and I've got my star player who's got a hamstring injury and I've already stolen a game there, unless he's got the hand of God placed on his hamstring and he's suddenly 100%, which he won't be.
He's not going to be 100%.
Exactly.
I don't understand that he has to be at 100%. Everybody's on this, don't play him, don't play him. We don't know. We have no idea. I know the hamstring thing's going to linger the whole time.
Likely. I also think you're likely to benefit from more rest. And, hey, look, they just won in stunning fashion without him. And you're right, too. I mean, if Paul goes to Doc Rivers and says, I want to play, then you're playing him. But I think if you sit down and powwow as a group and say, look, how do you feel? I'm good, I'm not great. Well, let's go for great and let's go home.
Okay.
That would be my approach if I'm them. But I'm not. It's just a blanket. Oh, you don't play him because I think you've already stolen home court already.
You steal it, or was it given to you?
The end of that game. Just watching Houston run around, they look like a group of kids. Are we trapping? Are we fouling? Oh, we're just going to let everybody take wide open threes. Like, as it turned out, it was Redick. It was Rivers. They're just looking around and all right. Well, if I'm just going to be given an uncontested, I'll take it. And if you had the over, you were given that ticket too, whoever you are.
It didn't matter where they were on the court, though. The shots were uncontested. Layups, threes.
They lost by 16 at home to the Clippers without Chris Paul.
We didn't play with much composure on
and the thing is if you're a Rockets fan, you can't deny any of this stuff. You can't go, look, and I get the whole one-game thing. We'll see what happens in Game 2. But how do you show up that flat? And for although the Rockets don't get any love, it is really hard for any of us in this business, people listening, watching right now, it's really hard for any of us to buy into something that hasn't happened before. We have guys going, Golden State, we'll see, okay? And they've only shown us almost flawless basketball for about 6 months. But with Houston, how come we don't talk about Houston more? Here's an example. Exhibit A. The other exhibits are no one likes that your guy gets a million foul calls, even though he didn't get them last night, and that he apparently can't be bothered to play defense in the second round. And despite Dwight, who's been really good since he's returned, and I loved him on defense last night, nobody likes that guy either. Then it's Josh Smith. And you go through it all. There are guys that have had bad reps, at least from an enjoyment standpoint of watching them play basketball. So you just combine it all. That's why I think Houston gets so beat up last night and today, and they deserve it.
Say it again. Houston what?
What?
Houston.
Who did it? Who did a Houston has a problem tweet and was like, nailed it? Because we did it in the tease, obviously, as a joke. But if you're a guy that hit Houston, we have a problem tweet.
Larry King.
I'll give Larry King a pass.
I like olives.
SVP and Russillo.
Both road teams won the openers of their conference semis last night in the NBA. And for the Bulls, why do you think they won the game?
They hit all these open shots. 36% of their shots in the half court were uncontested. That's a ridiculous number, and they hit basically every one of them, Gasol and all sorts of things. So they hit them all.
56% from three, 50% from the floor in the game. Cleveland's calling card has not been and will not be defense. I don't expect the Bulls to make 56% of their threes, obviously, because that doesn't happen. It did last night. What role does LeBron being at times I thought passive's I guess the word. It strikes me every time as odd, Ryan, when he's shoulder to shoulder with a defender and it looks like he could roll like a freight train to the bucket where he jumps in the air and gets caught and is looking to pass to someone that may not even be open or be looking. I don't.
Are you afraid that we're doing this again?
No.
Are you afraid after a LeBron playoff game you're like, oh, I don't want to be that guy.
Kind of. I'm always baffled when I see that play. I can't remember if it was on or off air where you were joking about the Isaiah Thomas play from Boston where
he just drives into a million guys and then whips it to whoever might have a green shirt on.
He's tiny. He gets caught in midair, and then you're just trying to make something out of nothing. LeBron James physically is not ever going to be compared to really anybody. He's his own specimen. And so
maybe Thor,
who doesn't no jumper. Thor, no jumper, but lightning bolts. So you got that. When you're shoulder to shoulder with guys and you're trailing and you're just
thunder, but whatever.
Does he live forever? I get confused.
Mike, can you help us out here with Thor?
What's Thor do?
He's a god. He does live forever. Well, a demigod, to be exact.
Okay, thank you. Jumper, though, sketchy jumper from Thor. Never talked about in any of the.
Not yet.
Okay.
So imagine Avengers play the Globetrotters, like the seventh one.
Yeah, that'll coming up next summer. Summer of 2021, they play the Trotters. Back to LeBron. I'm not going to overreact. I'm not going to freak out. It's one game.
Okay, but what did you see and what are you afraid of saying? Because I think that's where we're all at here today, because you don't want to be that guy again with LeBron. But you saw something that you don't like. You saw him being passive. I think it's okay. You look at those numbers and you go 19, 15 boards, and 9 assists. Am I going to be the guy in the air that says he looks passive? I think it's okay to do that. He had one of the worst triple-doubles I've ever seen in the playoffs against the Celtics. I watched Blake in Game 7 against the Spurs. It was a triple-double. I think there were a lot of times where he didn't really want the basketball in his hands. Last night he was terrific with another triple-double with Blake. But I think sometimes you can put up numbers and still want a little bit more, and that's who LeBron is. But since the rings, it never turns into, what's wrong with this guy anymore? Because once you win, you just can't do that topic anymore on the radio.
And you shouldn't. And because
you're right.
They're two completely separate things. This isn't me saying he can't or is unable or will never. This is not me saying any of that. This is me saying, hey, you're 6'8", whatever you weigh, and when you're driving and you seem timid about going up strong to the rim and you'd rather jump and then look around and try to have someone bail you out. I don't understand that philosophy. I don't understand what you're trying. I mean, cool, if you set up Kyrie on an open three because of that's good.
But Kevin Love's not out there to catch that in the corner anymore.
Take it to the bucket, man.
James Jones, my man, 8 minutes plus 4.
How many times he hit the deck?
A couple. People loved it, too. They go, you're right. Like, I used it. I said ahead of time. James Jones runs into screens and fall down. And
last night was not the first game of the Cavs or James Jones that you've watched this year.
No. But there's a difference between what I say about the Memphis Golden State series, where I go, just let us know when the Western Conference Finals start, and picking Cleveland. I picked Cleveland. I very well could be wrong with this thing. It doesn't mean that I didn't think Chicago will win. Are they going to shoot that way? Are you too scared of Derrick Rose? Because it looked like everybody would collapse so hard on him that, I mean, Pau Gasol goes nuts. He hit, 8 of his first – he went 8 for 8, I think, to start the game, or at least 8 for 8 on those uncontested, help shots where the defense sags off of him.
10 of 16 for the night, 21 and 10 for Pau.
So, weird defensive things where Noah's guarded by James early. You knew Kyrie was going to have a big night.
30.
So, his playoff stuff, he's not a different guy. He doesn't. There's
same really good player.
Yeah, it's not. It's May. Maybe I'll be apprehensive, But I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more from LeBron, and maybe Butler's just that guy. I mean, it sounds crazy to think any one guy is going to stop a player like LeBron, but even in some of the buckets LeBron was making, Butler was still closing out on him.
We'll ask our buddy Nick Friedel from ESPNChicago.com about that very topic, about Butler and LeBron. He wrote about it. Butler doesn't fear him. He knows he's great, but he played very confidently himself. I just want to quickly here, before we move on the show, run this by you. Charles Barkley from Turner last night, making a point about losing this game and what it could mean.
I think there's always a point in a series where you're either going to win a series or lose a series. I always believe that. Again, example, when the Spurs didn't win Game 6, I didn't think they were going to win Game 7. They had to win Game 6. So when we're up 3-1 on Kenny them, I said in my mind, we got to finish these guys off tonight. And they beat us. Then the series starts over again in my mind. I said, if we win this thing tonight, it's 4-1, it's over. But if we don't win tonight, now we got to go back to Houston, and it's going to be very difficult on us to win back in Houston. And then Game 7 is a toss-up game. And now it's a very difficult series for the Cavaliers.
By the way, that Phoenix series, Dirks Bentley and I sat at the Blarney Stone and screamed at the TV as they just went down their leg, and all those guys from the Rockets hit 3 after 3 after 3 and eliminated Chuck.
This is before either of you were gigantic global entities.
Yeah, it was basically what's wrong with those dummies who were screaming at the TV cheering for the Phoenix Suns. Now, he was from Arizona, and I was just a huge Charles guy. Side note.
Do you buy that this – I mean, I understand once the series, the flow's been established, maybe we've had our skirmishes, we find out where the beefs are, we find out what adjustments teams have made. I understand the point that San Antonio wanted to close them out at home as opposed to having to go in an elimination game on the road. I understand Charles's point there. This is the first of a 7-game series potentially. You never want to lose the first game. You don't want to lose on your home floor. But in the past, when he's lost in the first round first game to Chicago, they've bounced back. I don't know. I just thought first game feels way different to make the point as opposed to say midway through a series.
If you just look at the surface, the words, you go, well, that's kind of obvious. But I think it's brilliant. I think it's absolutely brilliant. But you have to be really in tune with the team. Either you're on it, you're coaching it, or you cover it, and you are so locked in. So for us here nationally going, this tells you something, that Chicago's mindset is different. They're looking back at all the previous failures against LeBron, and now they're ready to take this thing. I agree with Charles. I just think it's really hard for us to see it. I mean, the only one that I can ever think of that's a good example for me is just covering the Red Sox in 2004, that when you looked at how the pitching matchups broke down and how the games went in that Yankees-Sox ALCS after what happened in 2003, and granted, they put it on them in Game 3. It was this weird thing with the way they would win and beat Mariano, of all people, that you got this weird sense that you go, something crazy could happen here. But I would have never understood it unless, I was in the park and just as locked in with that. So I can't say that about Chicago and Cleveland, but I totally get his point.
Geico presents Strange Saving Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
SVP and Russillo.
Came up with a game, maybe terrible, but I think it'll be fun. I'm going to ask you and Stanford Steve a series of questions here. And basically the premise of this is whenever you're sitting at home and you're watching games and they'll show you a highlight from something before, or every now and then when you hear about a movie or a TV show and you go, I can't believe it's been this many years since that happened in sports or since this came out or something like that. All right, so you follow. So I'm going to give you two options, and essentially I'm asking you which one of the two has it been longer since this happened, okay?
I love this, and I hate it at the same time because you're so right. When you do the math on it, oh, my God. Okay, go.
Okay. What's been longer, the time since Terrence Newman was selected in the NFL draft or Monte Ellis's rookie year?
Terrence Newman's been around a while. Terrence Newman. That's longer.
Steve?
Agree, Terrence Newman.
Started with an easy one. 2003 first-round pick. Newman was the big deal.
Yeah.
K-State?
Yeah, K-State, of course.
Top 5 pick, I believe. Ellis is 2005, though. So that's a little bit longer than you would realize.
It is, and he was
drafted 10 years ago.
That has been a minute, man. and I remember him, and remember him when he came out, and you're thinking, all right, this kind of small, skinny shooter, is he going to transition to the league? Because there's, as you know, my theory on that, there's a zillion of those guys that are on the side of the road that just never translated the way you thought they would.
He was 40th. There was a lot of weird stuff coming out prior to the draft, scooter incident after that. But look, he's had a great career.
We want to know, Steve. We're off to a good start.
Okay, we went with an easy one.
Thanks, pal.
Okay, here we go. Larry Johnson's last season with 200 or more carries, or the year Joe Forte was drafted.
Man, the wheels fall off the bus quickly for running backs. Last year with 200 carries, and then Forte got drafted. The last year, Larry Johnson is the last year with 200 carries has been more recent than the Forte draft.
Agree.
Okay, 2 for 2. Forte was drafted in 2001.
Yeah, I was going to say 2002. I thought
he was drafted 14 years ago.
He also went in the teens too, didn't he?
19. Larry Johnson's last carry season, 200 or more carries, 2006. But he still was in the league another 5 years after that. And I was going to mess with you guys a little bit more. All right, let's make them harder, okay?
Who's the last team Larry Johnson played for? Who he
Miami.
played for?
He had 1 carry in 1 game.
Hold on a sec. I don't want to stop this, but just how bored were you? Because this is great stuff. This is like you were searching for stuff.
I was trying to think of a segment today. Okay.
I love it. Thank you.
The last season of The Sopranos or the year Blake Griffin was drafted?
Blake Griffin, he sat out the first year. Sopranos was older. Sopranos ended before Griffin got drafted.
Steve.
Agree.
3 for 3. The Sopranos ended 8 years ago.
Yeah, that's one of those things.
Blake's 09 draft.
Yeah.
But did sit out.
Sat out that year.
Guys are good. Guys are great at this game. Lenny Wilkins' last game as a head coach or the release of The Notebook?
Lenny Wilkins' last game as a head coach was he ended before The Notebook came out. Although I'd never seen The Notebook, so I have no idea what year it came out.
You should see it. It's great. He builds it in an art studio.
Cool.
So what'd you say? What's older?
Wilkins is older. Last game.
I'll go opposite him on that one.
So what do you think? You think The Notebook's been out longer or
Yeah.
Lenny Wilkins? Steve's the winner, 4 for 4. The Notebook came out in 2004. Lenny Wilkins actually 39 games with the Knicks. That 2005 team, one of my all-time favorites in NBA history.
That's the one we've asked Antonio about frequently?
Yeah, there's 30 guys on that team.
Some stars. My man, Stevie.
Last one, fitting.
Stay right, Wink.
The year since Allen Iverson's last game or the release of the movie The Hangover?
Last game, The Hangover. There's been 3 hangovers, which means that goes back to like 2000. Iverson's played more recently than The Hangover. First Hangover came out.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to guess Hangover's like 08.
Hangover's 09. Yeah, Iverson's last game was
10, right?
2010.
Nice.
5 years ago, though, since he played.
In the States.
5 years ago.
On that.
Philadelphia. So Steve takes it.
You got everyone right.
Yeah.
Have you seen The Notebook?
No.
If Brandy was in it, would you have seen it?
Yep. You know that.
Are they going to remake it?
They've remade everything else.
They should.
Scott.
What happened? What happened that you thought, man, I can't believe how long that's been?
Somebody's in the league for 8 years, some NBA player, and I went, this is just stupid that this guy's been in the league for 8 years. So I just started thinking about it and wrote some stuff down.
Scott, there's a rumor yesterday.
Okay.
Russillo was on a bike in downtown West Hartford.
Wait a minute.
You okay?
No, wait a minute. We're doing what? Biking? Or were you going to pick up?
Like hands down, like helmet, the whole thing.
Do you have it? Is this true?
What else was I doing?
Did you have
a helmet on?
Did you have on one of those Tour de France things just so everybody knew you were official? Like some
zip up deal?
Zipper down?
Did you have on your little thing, your little number?
Who saw me? How did this start?
A friend asked Quinnipiac Steve, texted him at like 7 o'clock. We're like, hey, I think Russillo's biking downtown West Hartford.
Yeah, because West Hartford Center, he's cruising around, and then Quinnipiac goes, what time was it? Because I don't know, 7-something? He goes, I would think he'd be watching the games. It was not me. It was not me. But we got real close to being that guy a couple years ago. It was pretty low point, really bored, and thought, you know what I could do? I could research buying a bike and then buy it. And then I realized you really have to have the helmet. And then I thought, I don't have any place to put it. My apartment's kind of small, and it lasted a couple weeks. So it was not me. I don't even own a bike.
You didn't have anywhere to put the helmet?
I didn't have anywhere to put the bike. That was a small apartment. Pretty depressing, actually.
Can you imagine those arms on a bicycle in West Hartford?
Just pistons pumping.
Just go through the center 30 times around happy hour, so
everyone sees you.
Yeah, the Avon women can be like, man.
And then cruise into Bar Taco for some tapas to go.
Do you guys have a bike rack that I can hang this? Because I don't want to leave it on the street. I don't want someone to take my components off it. I don't think I could ever really be super bike guy because I used to love it. Like, who didn't love riding a bike as a kid? But the helmet deal and, water.
Walking around with a tire.
He's hung up on the helmet. It's not that complicated.
Look at him in a helmet.
Think
about it.
The splits. And then when bike guy becomes big-time bike guy, because, I put in $30K this weekend. Just go. Although, 30K is probably nothing for a bike guy.
I was going to say, as a warm-up?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
You'd have to ride up to Attleboro and back to impress a bike guy.
Yeah, right. So I don't want to do that. Because I started looking at these weird workouts, that Spartan thing. I was like, just switch it up. And then whatever day I looked it up, it was the 120-minute workout day, where I go, what is that? And they go, you just have to be in constant movement for 2 hours. So run, but if you can't run anymore, just walk. And I'm going, well, I picked the wrong day to research this thing.
Yeah, or you can be sedentary on your couch for 4.5 hours, 5+ hours watching NBA basketball. So the net of the story is it was not him, but it almost was because you have put in the research that could have made you bike guy. For the moment, you are not bike guy.
I had a coupon that was going to save me some money on a bike, and I thought it was kind of fun. And I had a lot of fun researching what I should do, and then I go, I'm not going to do this. And I probably played pickup hoops poorly.
SVP and Russillo.
No, but not for real.
The former Finals MVP, Chauncey Billups, in studio with us, and you were on a lot of good teams, and I'm curious if you were ever on a team that got caught in what felt like a trap for the Rockets last night. They look down at the other bench. They know that team's exhausted. They know that they have a short bench to begin with, and Chris Paul, their best player, is wearing a suit coat. And it looked like they thought they were going to win just because they showed up. Do you remember ever showing up for a playoff game where you guys just assumed you'd win?
Not a playoff game. You can get trapped during the season. It's not a lot of time to prepare. There's several reasons why you can get trapped during the season. You cannot get trapped, especially game one at home that you worked so hard for to be the number 2 seed, and you've had plenty of time to prepare. You've been off 5-6 days. There's you cannot get trapped in that game.
I imagine you guys must laugh at us if you even paid attention to us when you were playing, when people would freak out about that one game because, the pendulum, it'll swing back and it's fine. But is that one game, the way they lost it, can it be debilitating to that team?
Oh, big time. The way that they lost it, they lost that game. They gave away home court to a team, obviously, without its best player, with no resistance.
Right.
It was no resistance. Now, if a team gets hot and hit 23s and you just can't stop. It's just that night. Then okay.
Right.
But with no resistance, man, they gave away that game. That was a mystifying game, man.
I'm with you. We're still sitting here the next day going, how did that happen? Chauncey Billups in studio. I looked at all of Harden's defensive possessions, especially with Barnes, and I know they try to sell this plus-minus, and he's a dedicated guy, and he's the same bad dude on defense. And it's really embarrassing if you look at it. Like, he just lets guys cut in front of him. He just stops rotating with someone, bad help for no reason. But is there anyone on that team that can say to Harden, because Harden's the man. So I don't know if Dwight has the personality. The rest of the guys, if they're getting on you, Harden's like, you're an extra dude. We traded a second rounder and some cash for you. Is there anybody that can say, what are you doing right now? It's the second round.
You know what? I think the loss of Patrick Beverley is bigger than what they thought, because one thing, Patrick, he's not an established all-star or player like that, but the effort that he's going to give on that ball from end to end makes everybody, because if you're watching a guy pressure a guy and turn a guy 2 or 3 times in the backcourt, and you're back here just waiting to see what the play is called, it's something that does something to you. You know what I mean? Your first line of defense, this guy is hawking the ball. Now, if he comes down and his guy throws the ball to James Harden's man with no resistance, now he can look at James and say, bro, I'm working my behind off up here, man. Don't just let him catch it. It defeats everything I'm doing. Don't just let him catch the ball. So I think not having a presence of him in that first line of defense, he's the one guy that probably could have said, come on, man. You can't, come on now. You don't disrespect the work that I'm putting in. Don't just let him catch it. You know, so it's a tough situation, but I mean, this guy was close to being the MVP of the league. He has to know that. He shouldn't need somebody to tell you that. He's not guarding Chris Paul. He's not guarding Steph Curry. He's guarding Matt Barnes.
Last night was so bad.
He's guarding Matt Barnes, and Matt's he's a quality player.
Right,
but he's not a guy that he's not in your scouting report as a guy that we have to stop. You got the night off. The series, you got it off. You're not chasing JJ. They don't want you to stop Jamal. Come on, man. You got that. You got to step as a leader. You got to step up and do better than that.
We agree, Chauncey Billups. Okay, let's go back to 2004 real quick. So you beat the Lakers in 5 games. I'm looking back on it now. You guys beat them 88-68 in Game 3. You held the Lakers to 68 points in the NBA Finals game. Well, they only had 3 games, so they were over 80. At what point did you know, because you were big underdogs, because it was the Lakers and they had loaded up, Malone, Peyton, did you guys go, we've got this? Like, they're done. When did you know?
I knew it, to be honest with you. I felt it before the series started. Just playing them during the season, knowing what we had, like our most 2 potent offensive players, which were myself and Rip Hamilton, I knew they couldn't stop me in pick and roll because I'm going to just bring Shaq out, work him, just bring him all the way out, make him play me in a pick and roll. And they couldn't stop Rip's pin downs. So if they can't stop our best 2 players offensively, we can get whatever we want. I can call any call that I want to make. And on the other end, we're just going to play Shaq straight up, make him throw it in. He's probably going to get 30 on us. But his 30 don't beat us because they're going to keep going to that, Now, keep going to Shaq. Now Kobe's mad. So, you know, it was a calculated game plan. But I knew really, man, before the series started that we had a big advantage that nobody else knew. But after Game 1, I came back to the hotel. I told my family, I told my wife, there's no way this team could beat us. There's no way this team could beat us.
I would like to apologize because I was here with SportsCenter, and I'm pretty sure after you won 4 games, we were trying to figure out a way that the Lakers could beat you in 9 because that's all we did was like, you're like, how's this happening? I mean, that's the way SportsCenter was because we just assumed the star power would be too much for the collective, but the collective and you guys knew it. Now, if we're looking at this year and Golden State star power, what would your game plan be to try to stop them? What would you try to take away?
I mean, obviously, you want to try to run them off of that 3-point line. You know, you want to make them take contested 2-point shots, especially at home. I mean, if those 2 guys, the Splash Brothers, they score 2 or 3 threes at home, it's like a 14-point play, man. The place is electric. It's crazy. Like, you got to try to run them off of that line. Make Steph and them go in there with those floaters and make them take 2-point shots if you can. And if you can't, it's going to be a long night, man.
I don't know what I would do. Like if it's Steph, I think I'd run at him and just. But then the minute he gets by me, then he's cooking to a corner, or I don't know what I'd do with him.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it really is tough, especially the way the rules are today. Like right now, I don't know what I do. I know if this is 2004, 2005, I'm gonna be physical with
body him. Yeah,
I'm gonna be very physical with him all game, even if he doesn't have the ball. If he's running through the lane, I'm hitting him. I'm wearing on him. I'm wearing him down. I'm going to post him up. I'm going to wear him down. Now, it's like the game is all the rules are offensive. It's all for the offense to win. So there's nothing you really can do.
Print the shirts is what you can do.
Yeah.
Print the shirts.
Is it over that fast?
I don't. Who's stopped him? I mean, like I always will hear guys that come from a defensive background get up into him, body him. I mean, do you think it's taken 3 years for someone to try it with Steph?
Yeah, you can't do that. No, you just can't. I mean, for one, he's too good. Like he's too clever.
His handle, he sets you up with one dribble. With the idea he's always going the other way.
He's way too clever. So it wouldn't have been me stopping him. it would have been us building a wall.
It'd been Wallace behind you.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, because I can't. I'm not gonna be able to stop him. But you gotta have 8 eyes on this guy all the time. But the problem is, what about those other guys? They got other good players. So it's you could be right. You could be right. You could have the first one. You print it. You can put it on now.
Ryan and I,
we're going to order it right now.
Chauncey's in studio with us, and Ryan and I think we both are a little bit skittish to say anything that sounds ridiculous about LeBron, because for so long it was that he can't, he won't, and that was nonsense. But when he looks passive in certain circumstances last night, that baffles me. I just don't understand how, if you're that physically gifted, if you're jumping in the air, getting caught, and looking for somebody to bail you out, just take it to the bucket, man. Do you see the same thing that I see? Your eyes are obviously different, but are you baffled when you see that?
I am. And, I was just on His and Hers earlier, and I said something that I think kind of sent waves on Twitter or whatever. But what I said was, I feel like LeBron is always that guy, that guy in the neighborhood that nobody can whoop, but you got to make him fight. You see what I'm saying? Like if he turns it on and he tries to go get 30, nobody can stop him from getting 30. And by the way, that's the only way they're going to win this series. He got to go finish at the basket, get those big guys in foul trouble. Don't go to the rim to kick it. Go to the rim to try to tear the screws off of the thing. You know, mm-hmm. and if he has that kind of aggression, they got a chance at winning this series, man. They really do. Without Love, they have a chance of winning this series. But right now, he's not kicking out to Love. He's not kicking out to JR. He's kicking out to Deladova. He's kicking out to Iman Shumpert, who shot it well. And Tristan Thompson, he has to be aggressive to score the basketball.
That's an interesting analogy. It makes a lot of sense. It's just, I don't know. I wouldn't want to fight him, but sometimes he looks like he doesn't want to fight. Chauncey, appreciate the time as always.
Already. Thanks, guys.
SVP and Russillo.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Tim, they finally lost a game in which they led for the first time, and I believe it was 18-0 until last night. Houston, 10-game winning streak comes to an end. But after what has been a miserable stretch, not just losing games, but just losing 100 and some odd a year, it seemed like forever, this has been a great start. Is this a good baseball team?
Well, it is right now, Scott, and I think it has a chance to stay in that race, in that division, the whole year. The division right now isn't very good. Oakland stepped back. The Angels don't look very good with injuries and everything else. The Rangers are in big trouble without Yu Darvish. So, and Seattle certainly hasn't played anywhere close to what we thought. This team's got two really good starting pitchers right now, and perhaps more than that. Dallas Keuchel and Colin McHugh are really good right now. Their bullpen, which was so bad last year, worst in the National League, 4.80 ERA. Their ERA is roughly 2.5 runs lower this year out of the bullpen. They have dynamic offensive players who strike out all the time, but they're starting to figure it out, and they're lead the league in homers. They lead the league in steals, which is a great combination. And, of course, they got the little guy at the top of the order that really makes things happen. That Jose Altuve guy is just fabulous, and he's 5'5.5".
Yeah, he's a joy to watch play the game. He plays obviously bigger, as they say. The opposite end of the expectation scale, the St. Louis Cardinals are off to the best start since I don't know what, but it's an incredible start. And they're uniquely positioned, I would think, to sustain a blow like Adam Wainwright. I mean, that would cripple a lot of other teams if you lost him. And their ERA is it's under 2.5, Tim. Well, I'm trying to figure out how to frame this, but will they even notice that they don't have this guy?
Yeah, they will, Scott, but they haven't yet because they're so loaded in their rotation. I know Carlos Martinez pitched poorly last night on Monday Night Baseball, but that guy's stuff is great. Michael Wacha's stuff is great, and he started the year as the 5th starter. And going into yesterday's game, they had 2.21 ERA, and the league average was 3.72. So they're more than a run and a half under the league average. That's how good their pitching has been from 1 to 12 on their club. And they're hitting a whole lot more than they did last year. It's a miracle they won as many games as they did last year with the offense that they had. So they're going to miss Wainwright. They'll start to see how much they miss him here pretty soon. But they still have enough to get to the playoffs with the team they have. And remember, they lost Wainwright in 2011 and still won the World Series. I'm not sure how they did that, but it was really impressive how this team pulled itself together sometimes.
Tim, if you look at all the teams that thought they could contend coming out of spring, what do you think has been the greatest flaw for any of the teams that you thought could maybe make it to the playoffs?
Well, I picked the Indians to win a wild card spot, and right now they're not doing very well. In fact, Corey Kluber, who won the Cy Young last year, has been hit hard this year, which is really surprising because his stuff is spectacular. I thought the Indians would be much better than this to this point, and even though it's really early, I would worry about them in that division because Detroit and Kansas City are very good, and even though the White Sox have played poorly, I thought the Indians would be better than this. And remember, they've turned it around. They turned it around last year when they looked terrible early and figured it out and got to 85 wins somehow, some way, telling you how good a manager Terry Francona is. So they've got a ways to go, but they better get that starting pitching straightened out first.
Jock Peterson for the Dodgers, their outfielder. He's got 5 home runs in his last 7 games. How is he, along with how they've shuffled that outfield, settled into, again, being in first place?
Well, he's been really good, Ryan. And remember, he had a 30-30 season last year in the AAA Pacific Coast League.
I saw him last year. I went out there just to watch him, part of my scouting.
Yeah, he's the first guy to have a 30-30 in that league in 80 years. And he can really, he's got great power. But most important, he can really play center field, which we've seen so far. And that was a big issue with the Dodgers last year. They used a bunch of center fielders, and none of them could really play the position, including Matt Kemp. This guy gives them defense up the middle, and now he adds power to their lineup. They flipped him in the leadoff spot the other day in a home run to start the game. So the Dodgers are in much better hands now with their defense up the middle, and the biggest factor is Jock Peterson in center field.
Timmy, did you see the Kentucky Derby last week?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. I'm not even going to ask you who won, which we could have some fun with. But, man, I had a trifecta going, and it didn't win. I had the 9, the 21, and the 1. You want to know who those horses were?
I'm such an idiot. Yes, I can't wait to hear.
Well, the 9 horse was Bolo. The 21 was Frumento. And the number 1 horse, I was really banking on something special. Ocho, Ocho, Ocho. I didn't cash with that one. It was a bummer. Hey, Tim, have a happy Cinco de Mayo. See you, buddy.
Major League Baseball on ESPN Radio. This season, the Mets have been a tale of 2 teams. One of the league's best at home and one of the worst on the road.
Towards the corner.
This weekend, they'll be at home at Citi Field facing the Marlins. Will their home field domination continue, or will Giancarlo Stanton lead Miami to a road win? The Mets and Marlins. The pregame's at 3:30 Eastern, followed by the first pitch at 4:30. Saturday on ESPN Radio and the new ESPN app. SVP and Russillo.
Man, that was the best condiment. Avengers movie reviews. Outsider Mike, you saw the film?
Yes, I did.
When did you see it?
I saw it Saturday afternoon during that big, busy day.
That was a full day, man. And then Adnan went to go see it last night.
Apparently.
So we know he does movie reviews. So
we have dueling movie reviews.
How did this work, Stanford Steve?
I just saw Adnan's tweet last night and didn't understand a couple words, so then that got me thinking. I knew Outsider saw the movie, and I wanted his review of the movie, so I figured we'd get dueling movie reviews.
Before we get the movie review, I saw on Twitter Saturday you were having some trouble with the fight. Were you actually able to get the fight? I think Caesar, somebody was failing you with the fight.
Oh, it was like, well, Caesar's remote, he didn't have enough juice in his remote. The batteries were like totally dead.
Guy doesn't have any batteries in his house?
No.
He's a promoter?
AAA.
He's your brand manager? He doesn't have batteries?
AAA could be, either you got them or you don't got them.
True, AAAs are tricky.
Yeah, those are the ones. Oh, what we got? Maybe you got a D for a flashlight. Maybe you got some of the other ones for your controllers, definitely. But those skinny ones.
AA, you're set, but AAA.
So what happened?
So we got just enough juice for it to go to the fight, to order the fight, but it was like, right at the start of the fourth quarter for, the Spurs-Clippers game. So half the party was screaming to put the game back on to see the end of it.
How far away were you from a 7-Eleven where batteries are sold?
We were in no condition, though, to actually drive there, probably.
Day drinking, watching the Avengers.
Started pretty around there. So just enough juice to order the fight, not enough juice to get back to the basketball game. People yelling to put the game back on, but nobody wanted to mess with it because we were afraid we wouldn't be able to get the fight back on.
So you literally had no other battery options. You couldn't take them from another remote.
We searched the house. Couldn't find any AAA in sight.
Okay.
We have a bunch of drunk people in a house that have no batteries. So then you just waited and
then
for 45 minutes of Jim Gray interviewing people. What a night. If I was there, I'd have gone to get you batteries. Actually, I would have left and not come back. But I would have told you I was going to get some batteries.
Then you would have missed the fight?
No, it's 45 minutes, man. How far is it from Waterbury to where I live? Not that far.
Traffic.
All right, so we have dueling Avengers reviews. I'm going to go one on the left or one on the right. You call it.
Right.
Right. Here we go. Avengers movie review.
The one thing that lived up to the hype this weekend was Avengers 2. Back in full glory with enough action and eye stimulation to make you forget Vegas.
Okay.
Seemed long.
That's
139 characters.
Okay, and then we have
Avengers Age of Ultron is a disappointing, rote, bombastic sequel. Best quip from Iron Man, I've had a long day. Eugene O'Neill long.
Okay, well,
this is the easiest quiz you've ever taken.
And I, just in the interest of transparency, responded to Adnan last night. The second was obviously Adnan. Wrote?
Yeah, what's that?
R-O-T-E?
It's when you repeat things. It's repetition.
Nice. Nicely done.
So I don't remember what I responded, but I responded something along the lines of, like, what did you think this was going to be? I mean, there's a green guy. There's a bunch of make-believe superheroes that apparently get together at the mall and go fight some wrong. And, like, you think it's going to be what? You're going to get something highbrow? Art house? Come on. This guy had the right idea.
The one thing that lived up to the hype this weekend was Avengers 2. Back in full glory with enough action and eye stimulation to make you forget Vegas.
I'm actually pretty impressed, Mike.
Nailed it.
What did you like about it?
Twice the action. Twice the characters. Had some new characters that were introduced.
Wait, new superheroes?
Yeah.
Where'd they meet these people? Craigslist?
What superhero movies, which ones have you not liked?
Believe it or not, Thor, I wasn't really.
The first one?
The first one.
Too slow?
Yeah. Too much of that character. What's her name? Why is it escaping me? Thor than
Wanda Sykes.
Her.
She's in it? I think so.
She was in Pootie Tang.
Yeah, they developed that.
Biggie Shorty.
Too much.
Biggie Shorty was great.
So Thor was too slow for you.
How about Daredevil, the one where Ben Affleck was blind or whatever?
Well, Daredevil's blind.
Oh. Yeah, Ben Affleck isn't.
Right. He was just playing the role. I don't think he's blind, because if he is, this Batman thing is going to be terrible.
They had a trailer for that in Avengers 2, the new Batman vs. Superman movie. That looks awesome.
Does look awesome.
So, Mike, there's no NBA games Thursday night. Should Ryan go see Avengers 2?
Yeah. I'll go with him if he wants.
I just want to hang out with you. I don't even know
you
if I want to
smoke in the theater you go to?
Nah, that's the tough part.
I'll let you smoke.
You actually asked for my number last week, and
I did.
You were going to send me something, and I thought we were kind of advancing our friendship.
What if it was just a picture of me, my shirt off, in a messy bathroom? Would that have been weird?
Wait, is that Drakkar cologne? Is that a squirt bottle of Drakkar that he's got?
These poor kids on Twitter, they like fire at you, and it doesn't. Look, we talk about it probably too much, but I'm always more fascinated with the guy that's like just letting you have it. And you go, you got a shower rod hanging in the background, and You're spraying on dual-scented Axe. That's what you're putting out there. So no shirts off pick, Mike?
Do whatever you want. I'll make it work.
That sounds like a date. That sounds like an oral contract. It sounds like Thursday night. It's Avengers. It is on and popping in West Hartford. Russillo will get on his bike and ride down and meet you. It's all set.
SVP and Russillo.
Question for you.
Yes, sir.
Who would you rather babysit your kid, Steve or Outsider?
Well, if I came home and she was working on a heater, Daddy, smoking. I think, let me just say, I would trust my child with Outsider. I think he'd be thoughtful and kind, but I think you just trust a parent because a parent has dealt with things that only another parent can truly identify with.
Yeah, I got to be getting odds on this or something. Like,
you're the dog here. You need some.
It's a yes or no question.
Stanford Steve would be the choice.
I don't know how that would work.
Stanford Steve's the choice.
But what if he has bad parenting habits and where Mike might be new? So even though Steve has a kid, he may be bad at it, and Mike is fresh.
I've seen it. I've seen it in action, and it's he's a big man, but there's a warmth. There's a warmth towards the little girl that you go, look at that.
Have you yelled at your daughter ever?
Yep.
Good for you for admitting it. What about you, Steve?
What do you think?
What's the guiltiest either one of you has ever felt yelling at your daughters? And both your daughters, for those who don't know, almost 2 years old.
Well, the guiltiest I ever felt was when I slipped walking down the stairs and we both tumbled down the steps, and I thought maybe one or both of us were doomed. That was horrifying. And
they're resilient, man.
You got a lot of stairs too.
Yeah, and she went down the tall one. That was awful. I don't yell at her much, but when I say, because I'm super sweet, nice guy, and it's like, no, come on, we don't hit, don't do the thing, and like 26 times after you've said no, you're like, no, and then there's big eyes and like, okay. So I don't feel a lot of guilt. I feel like you finally listened. It's very rare, though, that I raise my voice. Very, very rare. But I've done it.
Yeah. No or stop in a loud voice, that's automatic tears.
Ooh, tears?
Yeah.
Tears every time it's a loud voice? Stern?
Those two words? Yeah.
What about...
Wow.
What if she goes for the last chicken nugget in a Chick-fil-A box with you? How's that work out?
She can have them.
See.
What would cause you to reach that point, though? I mean, it's got it. It's.
Oh, she was. I mean, it wasn't her, but I just tried to teach a lesson. Like, she was over by the wall, and like she was getting close to the socket, and was like starting to. And now she's never even gone near one again.
See, he's preventing. He's preventative.
Saving lives.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So you know what's better? Tears are better than an ouchie.
Yeah, like I'm immune to it. The crying thing now, it happens a lot. You know, she's young. Yeah. People get bent out of shape, but.
Outsider Mike, what's your philosophy going to be on discipline your future children? You think you're going to be a stern disciplinarian?
Yeah, we're going to have like a room, and just it'll be the timeout room.
Just the room itself?
A timeout room?
Yeah.
What kind of square footage are you looking at?
I don't know, but we'll have it like soundproof and everything, but with glass window. We'll keep an eye on.
So an asylum?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's a safe house or an asylum?
Walls.
What are we trying to accomplish here?
That's a place for a kid to go.
A window, a glass, something so we can look.
Keep an eye on the mirror. Welcome to the house. Oh no, what's that in there? That's
Just go in the bucket.
That's
We're closing the door now.
Oh man, this has been an interesting and enlightening moment. How do you think you're going to do how do you think you're going to handle the old discipline?
The only time, if it happens, because let's say it's not I mean, I guess you just kind of get older and you're like, all right, enough of this. But I think I'll have to worry more about, like right now, I can't wait to go play basketball. And
this afternoon?
If I had a kid, that's not happening. So.
You just bring the kid and
just keep riding this out. I'm going to start being me even more now.
Good, and do it. Time's times 100.
Please get a bike.
Right. 3:30. Last 2 nights up, sober. Friday, Saturday night, going, is this what it's all about? I go, you know what, though? I get to play hoops every afternoon this week if I want.
Yep. Because you know what? It's been
outdoor.
The sun's come out. It's nice now.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be fun to go do, hit a bunch of 7-irons, try to work things out. You know, it's not happening. That.
So I try to remind myself whenever you have those, driving back from Bristol, I'm in the middle of a 16 to 18 day stretch of work because I'm working last weekend, this weekend, and then going into next week, and you're like, maybe it would be nice to come home to a kid. And then I'm like, no, I'm good.
Yep. And when she walks up the hill and without her shoes on and eats a stick, and then she hits you with it, and she falls down the steps, it's cool. Getting up some jumpers. Don't you fret, old friend.
No, I am looking. It's awful actually in a way because societally I already can tell now. People are starting to think something's wrong with me.
Bleep society, bro.
Maybe civil union. Man, I work a lot.
Yep, bleep them. You do you. I can't wait to hear about your basketball game tomorrow.
Probably be bad.
Miguel Cabrera leads the Detroit Tigers into Anaheim to face Mike Trout and the Los Angeles Angels. The pregame's at 7 Eastern, followed by first pitch at 8, Sunday on ESPN2 and on ESPN Radio.